the previous video, we saw that the expression of symptoms in adults is more frequently characterized by attentional difficulties compared to childhood or adolescence, and that hyperactivity tends to be internalized. In the next video, let's see together the testimony of an adult who has ADHD. So hello.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good. And you?
So thank you to participate to this course on ADHD.
No problem.
So you've been diagnosed with ADHD. So
Yes.
could you tell us a bit how it is to live with ADHD?
I was diagnosed, I think, maybe a year ago. And so for the majority of my life, it's been kind of noticed or mentioned that I've always been a little bit hyperactive or a little bit out of control, maybe at school and things like that. So as I've got older, I've always struggled with working and with attention.
So could you tell us a bit more about how attention difficulties had an impact on your life?
Yeah, so I think the older I got, the more aware I was of how I couldn't really focus on anything. I would always be doing one thing and then I'd then go on to do another. Even like packing a bag, like if I was packing a bag and then it would never be finished, I'd go off and do something else. Or if I was going to the garage to collect something, I wouldn't come back for 2 hours because I'd go to the garage and then
You forgot what you were doing
what
there.
I'm doing. I go and then something else distracts me and then I go do something else and then I'll clean my bike and then my wife, it got so normal. I was gone for 2 hours and my wife didn't even question. She was like, well, you always disappear for 2 hours. It's normal. Okay. So.
And so you were in the army, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I was in the army.
I mean, and you had other jobs. So how did it impact your job, or maybe not?
Well, I think it did. Like in the army, I used to be sanctioned or punished quite a lot because I wouldn't finish any of the things I was doing. I would forget pieces of
You
clothing.
procrastinated a lot.
Yes.
We can say that.
Yeah. I managed to deal with what I had to do with, and I found ways to cope. But the procrastination was huge. Like at school, if I'm honest, I don't know how I passed school. I managed to find a way through school, but I don't know how I did.
You were forgetting some stuff, or losing stuff that you needed for your activities, or not?
Yeah, I like PE kits or things like that. I'd always come without a sock or without this. What I used to do, like with school, is you used to take the books that you needed that day, but because I knew I wouldn't take them, I'd take them all. So I had a bag with like 20 books in, so I didn't lose them, because that was my way of not losing them another time.
This is a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but then when I lost the bag, I lost everything. So it was another problem.
So your parents needed to be always behind you to remind you not to lose or not to forget appointments and so on?
Yeah, quite a lot. And it's something that my mother has mentioned recently, that she wishes she'd done something about this when I was younger.
All right.
Because since the treatment, she sees a noticeable change.
So she realized that there is a difference with and without the treatment?
Even now, yeah.
Even now?
Like now.
I mean, because in adults you were also late in appointments, or difficulty? Yeah. You had difficulties in organizing, on planning tasks?
Yes. Planning, like what I would try to do is, like in my head, I'd be like, I'll write these things down so I can remember them. But I mean, as soon as I've written them, I've forgotten them. Like very rarely did I write more than 5 things and complete those 5 things. I would write the 5 and then go do something else.
Okay. You had a lot of things in your mind?
All the time, like multiple things going on. And this is the biggest thing I found from being medicated, was I can think about one thing at a time more than running through multiple 10 scenarios at a time, which none of them are going to happen. But then I stress myself out over these scenarios that haven't happened and the argument I'm going to have, which doesn't even exist. So that is one of the big things that has changed.
This disturbed you a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is somehow related to hyperactivity. A lot of thinking is in your mind. So can you just tell us a bit about hyperactivity and impulsivity? So how it is and how was it for you?
My impulsivity when it comes to spending or money was terrible. As in, if I saw a bike that I wanted, I would find a way to buy it. But it's like, some of my friends spend 9 months deciding they want to buy a bike. I would buy one on a weekend.
In minutes.
Minutes, yeah. But then this is a problem because I didn't have the money to do it, and I would do this and that is definitely one thing. Since having my medicine, is I now have like an extra breath before I press the button to go.
You have time. I mean, you take the time to think.
Well, I don't really need it, and do I need it in the next 6 months? No. But those impulsivity things were terrible, like the injuries I've had from doing stupid things because, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Like, could you just give us an example?
Like jumping off walls, like broken feet, and like skiing. I'll go down that, and then broken shoulders. And the majority of my things that I've injured myself in has been like impulsive.
So you were taking a lot of risks.
A lot of risks.
Yeah.
I would say I've had more injuries than the majority of people.
And in terms of hyperactivity, so as a child, you mentioned that you were moving a lot also, or talking a lot? So...
As a child, I think I couldn't sit still at school. I used to swing around the classroom on the chair, and my mum told me recently that the teacher said to her, either take him to gymnastics or don't bring him to school. So from 5, I did gymnastics 5 times a week.
And this calmed you?
I think it tired me.
It tired you?
It tired me, yeah. But I did that up until I was 16. And this is where, if we link it to my drinking, I kind of did the gymnastics, which tired me and kept me calmer till I was 16. But then I started drinking, which then almost did the same, as in when I used to drink, I'd have a hangover. But then when I had a hangover, I just used to sit and think about feeling rubbish, as opposed to, as soon as the hangover was gone, there's 9 different conversations going in my head about what should we do, but then could never make a decision on what to do. This was like, is one of my issues. I can sit in the morning if I don't have my medicine and I've got all these things to do and I never start any of them.
And you're stressed and you don't start anything, and
no.
You procrastinate a lot.
Yeah.
Again.
And then the feeling of, sometimes I can take my Focalin and like maybe in an hour or 2, I can do those jobs and it's taken me 40 minutes. But in my head, the jobs before my medicine were a full day's worth of jobs that were never going to get finished, and I don't even know how to start.
And you even started?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So, and the difference even with, like, my wife has commented that I will now make phone calls to people that I need to ring, whereas before I would never ring anyone. So when we moved house recently, we had to go to the commune to sort out the paperwork. I would never have gone before, because the thought of going and doing the administration, I would have 10 different scenarios in my head before I left the door and never gone. Whereas when I did it this year, I walked down and just did it in the morning.
It's a very good example of procrastination and related to attention deficits. And more related to hyperactivity, now, I mean, before you were treated as adults, how was it for you? Because you mentioned a lot about as you were as a child or up to 16 years old. But how was it later on when you were adults? I mean, was it more internalized or?
I think definitely the hyperactivity became more internalized in my head. But then it gave me also like a bit of a restlessness, like, which I directed into cycling. So my wife will sometimes say, just go out on the bike, because I'll sit and I'll pace around the house.
So it was obvious from outside, you were moving a lot, it was difficult for you to sit or to rest calm?
Yeah, sitting or moving the legs. I've always had like fidgety legs and things like this, and moving around, and kind of the thought of trying to, like, when people say, oh, you should meditate or sit, I try, and it's 20 seconds and you're like, well, and now what? So that's always been a problem,
Yeah. So you were recently diagnosed with ADHD. So how was it for you to know that you have this disorder?
It was a relief to have it actually kind of diagnosed, because for years people have said, oh, maybe you should go get tested for this or that, and then I didn't want to, or put it to one side. But to actually be diagnosed was a huge relief. And then it answered a lot of questions from the most of my life, really.
So this give you an explanation why you were acting or behaving like this?
Yeah, hugely.
Yeah?
Like a lot of things through my life which have always been like a bit of a question mark of why did you do that, or what were you doing then, now makes a lot more sense.
And so you receive a treatment, and you talk a lot about your treatment, but So you have a psychostimulant which is Focalin in,
Yeah.
the name. Could you just tell us what are the main impact of the treatment for you?
For me, it's kind of being able to take just a slight step back from everything that I'm doing. It's not like a huge kind of change. It's like I get an extra second to think of everything that I'm doing. So I take it in the morning, but then I can kind of plan my day better. But then the activities I do through the day, I can do properly. So an example is when I go swimming. When I used to go to the change rooms at the swimming bath, there'd be a bag, a towel, all on the floor. Whereas if I go now, I can kind of think, right, put the towel there, get changed, put your clothes in the bag. Whereas before, it would have just been like
So it's more organized.
more organized.
You plan better ahead.
Yeah,
This is,
there's
I
definitely.
mean,
Yeah.
this is the main impact for you or the main difference.
I think this, and the main one for me personally, is it kind of, there's not as many things going on in my mind. Because that was, I think, before when I came to see you, my main issue was so many things going on in my head. I felt worn out and tired. It was kind of so many different scenarios, voices, not voices, but conversations about what could happen or what this. Whereas now it's a bit more, deal with this, then we'll deal with that, then we'll deal with that.
So the medication is working very well for you.
For me,
we can say
very
that.
good. Yeah,
This like, I mean,
Yeah.
this changed something in your relationship with your wife or not?
I think so. Yeah. We have a lot more conversations because I used to shy away from conversations before as well because an in-depth conversation would never finish in a way
Why?
because I'd be kind of onto something else.
All right. You were also impatient, or we
Yeah.
can say you easily bored in conversation before treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd be thinking about doing something else or
And now it's you can spend time having a conversation with your wife.
having conversation, and then even things like reading. Like since I've been medicated, I've probably read 15 books.
Which was not the case before?
I've never read 15 books in my life, but
In your life.
in my life, I've never read 15 books. But now I've been able to start a book and sit and read it and enjoy reading it at night. And then I've been sleeping better because I've not been sat up watching TV or trying to distract myself from thinking about lots
Big
of things.
change.
Big change.
All right. Do you want to, because we're almost finished, do you want to add something to about you or about ADHD or about treatment or?
I think for me, for anybody that's looking to be treated, I put off even looking to be treated for years and years because I felt there was a stigma attached to taking medicine, and that by taking the medicine, there was all these kind of rumors that you'd be like a zombie or you'd be kind of doped out your mind. Whereas it's not anything like that. It's almost like, I won't say it's not noticeable, but it's kind of, it just gives you that extra second or two to think. Whereas before you would have done, and then you're thinking, oh, why have I done that? So,
Great.
yeah.
I mean, an important message for people who are listening to us. So thanks a lot for your participation to this course on ADHD. It's really appreciated.
No problem.
And see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye.